the environmental movement has presented a very negative vision of what we need to do, and it's always the things that we have to stop doing. But I think the other side of that coin is that we can really improve our quality of life if we do things differently.
Robert Costanza is one of the founders of the field of ecological economics.
It's not in any way assured that the future will be sustainable and desirable. But unless we focus on trying to create that future, we will obviously never have it. So we don't know what's really possible, and we won't know what's possible until we've tried. We don't want to sustain something that's bad. On the other hand, we don't want to have something that's desirable that doesn't last. So we want something that really is both of those things, that we can sustain into the future but also is desirable. And I think our current system is neither of those things. It's neither sustainable or desirable. And so we need to create a new economy, a new system that can sustain itself, that can maintain, that can prevent damaging the ecological life support system beyond its ability to repair itself, and yet can allow human flourishing, human prosperity within those biophysical constraints. And history has shown that the best way to achieve positive results is to first envision them. You have to create a positive vision in order to have any chance of achieving it. So if we remain mired in pessimism and defeatism, then we will be defeated. But if we create a positive vision and say, here's what we really want, then at least we have the possibility of finding the path to get us there. And I think positive visions are much more motivating for people than negative visions. I think that's been part of the problem with the environmental movement, that negative visions are not motivating in the end. They can help to solve immediate problems, to stop doing something that's really bad right now. But they can't help to solve the longer term kinds of problems of how do we really change our society in order to achieve these goals. A democratic society needs to create a shared vision of where it wants to go, what the goals are. I think we've ignored that part of it, since the Founding Fathers came up with our original vision. And we don't live in an empty world anymore, which was the situation in 1776 when we had a lot of frontier, and when natural capital and social capital were not the limiting factors. So we need to re-envision, what our goals are in this new context. And in fact, that process of envisioning needs to be an ongoing process. I think we have the technology now to actually begin to start to do that. We have a global conversation in real time is actually possible for the first time in human history. So there's a lot of interesting psychological research recently about the psychology of happiness, the science of happiness, what actually does contribute to people's sense of well-being. And what they're finding very clearly is that material consumption only contributes up to a certain fairly low threshold. And beyond that, it's other things. It's your interactions with your friends and family. It's your interactions with nature that contribute to increasing your well-being. And in fact, studies show that people who are more materialistically oriented actually suffer from higher rates of both mental and physical illness. So it's not making people better off to consume more, even though that's the message we're getting from advertising, on a daily basis, a barrage of the message that, if you consume a certain product, you'll be happier. In fact, the reality is just the reverse, that the more we focus on those material consumption kinds of options for improving happiness, the worse off we are. Obviously, there's a real balance here. You need a certain amount of material consumption to survive. You need food. We need transportation. We need all of those things. But I think we focus far too much on that aspect of the contributions to well-being, and we need to create a better balance, among the various things that do contribute to our well-being.
The transition from the current system to a more sustainable, positive future will be difficult but not impossible.
We have a lot invested in the current system, and making the transition to some other system then requires more than just wanting to do it, more than just because there's a lot of inertia and investment to overcome. One of the lessons, I think, from that is that the worst thing you can do when trying to help an addict overcome their addiction is tell them that they're doing the wrong thing and they have to stop, and that immediately causes a defensive reaction. And I think that's exactly what we've done with the environmental message, particularly climate change, that this is something that's wrong and we have to stop and we have to, reduce our consumption, et cetera. But that's I think the wrong way to frame it, because one way to overcome that is to say, here's, it's not, you're not doing the wrong thing, but here's something better that we could be doing that would improve the situation. And unless you have that positive vision out there for what would happen after the addiction is overcome, then it's very difficult to get any movement at all.
Professor Costanza is founder and editor-in-chief of the journal Solutions. Solutions encourages dialogue and consensus building to solve environmental, social, and political problems.
We created a new journal/website that's called Solutions, that's focused on building the shared vision, on having a discussion, a dialogue about what those integrated solutions might be. And all solutions really affect many parts of life. You can't just have a technical solution that's going to solve a problem without having other impacts. So we need to think about how these things are interconnected and what real solutions might be and what our goals are. Peter Victor has an interesting book out called Managing Without Growth, and he asked just this question: what would a sustainable economy look like? Could we have an economy that was not growing in GDP terms, but that was actually improving in quality of life terms? And he lists a number of policies that would be required to achieve that. It is possible. And in order to achieve it, it would require fewer working hours per person. So there would be more leisure time. That more leisure time could be used to interact with family and friends and improve social capital. It would involve a stabilization of population and an investment shifting away from consumption goods and towards public goods. So we need to shift away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy. We need to have more efficient transportation systems, et cetera. There's a long list there. But it also involves investing in our human capital infrastructure. So investing in education, investing in healthcare, investing in population stabilization. That would mean reducing the gap in income and invest in rewarding people for participating in their societies, in their communities. I think we're going to need everyone to change the world, not just people from environmental schools, but I think we need also to change the minds and the approach and the vision of people, that are studying in MBA programs and all across the whole spectrum in academia. And I think that's one of the problems itself, is the isolation of the different academic disciplines and the lack of sort of of dialogue. So, how do we overcome that constraint in academia? Transcending disciplinary boundaries, I think, is a real key. Now, that's one thing that I think environmental schools can lead the way in, and are very much doing that. So it's not so much the environment as a specific discipline of study, but as a way to bridge across, all of the various aspects of human knowledge and pull all of that together and get this discussion and dialogue going to actually solve problems.
For more information on the Visions of a Sustainable World project, please visit environment.yale.edu/visions.